What's shaking, loyal Rebels viewers? It's Andy Gutierrez coming to you from inside Lucasfilm with a penultimate episode of Rebels Recon. This week we saw the return of not one but two fan favorite characters, and now I'm here to show you how it all came together. So step with me into my very own world between worlds. This is Rebels Recon. Taken to the Jedi Temple by Lothwolves, Ezra and Sabine discover a portal that transports Ezra to a world between worlds.
Master Yoda? Obi-Wan? Where are you?
Realizing the mysterious world gives him the ability to change fate, Ezra rescues Ahsoka from her duel against Darth Vader on Malachor.
Ahsoka?
Ezra? When the Emperor attempts to seize control of this power, Ezra makes a narrow escape, destroying the Jedi Temple and allowing the Padawan to say a final goodbye to his master.
Goodbye, Kanan.
This week, we not only got to see the return of Ahsoka, but of the Emperor as well. I sat down with the cast and crew to talk about what the Emperor was really after in the Jedi Temple, a little more information about the Mortis gods, the world between worlds, and Ahsoka's fate. Check it out. In this episode, we see the Empire excavating the Jedi Temple. Is this the sort of thing that they do regularly?
I don't know if I'd say regularly, but it is an expression of Palpatine's interest in arcane knowledge.
What I love about this episode is that it actually exposes something that is not part of the regular Rebel mission, and it's not the known entity of what they're doing. What you get a little bit more understanding around is what the Emperor might be after in terms of furthering his own power. Not just about taking over control of the galaxy and ruling with order, but what other devious things he might be wanting to discover that sort of secure him as the ultimate power in the universe.
We've long discussed in meetings that the Emperor would be somewhat obsessed with history and the Sith. And that's one of the reasons why I was looking for the temple on Malachor. And one of the things he knows about is this kind of place or a gateway where he can control through time and space different events through the Force.
What was it like working with the original Palpatine, Ian McDiarmid, as a voice actor in this episode?
He was incredible. When we did introductions, he is the most charming gentleman, and then we started the record, and he just went right into the Emperor. It was like he just switched it on. It was like, whoa.
He's fantastic. It was a fun bit. I didn't really ever see that happening, but to hear Ian say Ezra Bridger and Ahsoka Tano was pretty cool. Pretty magic moment in my time here at Star Wars, that's for sure.
Because we had already sort of crossed a lot of the same bridges with Obi-Wan and Tarkin and Yularen, we'd done enough characters that had appeared in live action that by the time we got to the Emperor, it was easier to figure out what would work and what wouldn't work because we'd done enough characters in that sort of vein. He was one of the more sort of painless designs. Ian McDiarmid has a very distinctive profile, so as soon as you get that big Hulk nose in and you put in the scary orange eyes and you know that that voice is going to be there, you could almost just do that. Ugly and old is always going to be easier than pretty and young, so no offense to Ian McDiarmid or anything, but saying the character of the Emperor is fairly ugly and old, so it makes life easier.
The painting on the wall of the temple is a representation of the Mortis gods seen in the Clone Wars. Can you give us some insight on the Mortis gods for those who need a refresher?
The Mortis gods were a concept created by George when we worked on Clone Wars, and he had us do this arc that basically dealt with Anakin being tested by these Force wielders, George called them, to see if he was this prophesized chosen one, which seemed to be a common prophecy among many different Force wielding groups. And they were the first creation by George of somebody other than a Jedi or a Sith that could wield the Force and do it on an almost godlike level. So I'd been working on somewhat history of what they are really and where could they have come from and what all that meant back when we did Clone Wars, and then I resurrected it here in Rebels to tie things a bit together and make certain storylines possible.
It was a challenge to have the story point where the wall actually comes alive. For the first time on Rebels, we actually did some 2D animation and we integrated into our 3D animation pipeline. We worked with a studio called Ghostbot. We worked closely to make sure that it was seamless, the integration.
It's really neat to see this 2D kind of painting come to life. It was sort of a collaboration of figuring how could we make this this a little more mystical? How could it not just be a still painting, but like once things start moving and getting up, then it becomes this other world and this sort of enchantment kind of feel. Trying to figure out the logistics of it was something that was definitely new to us, but I think in the end it came out really good.
The thing about Mortis was the notion that the Force can take you places. So the Force basically is deeper and more powerful than anyone can ever imagine. Yes, there's that impressive ability to move things with your minds, to do Jedi mind tricks, to fight with a lightsaber, but that is ultimately a real mortal manifestation of the Force. There's bigger, deeper things out there.
This is one of the most trippy episodes of Rebels. How did Dave explain the whole world between worlds thing to you?
The way Dave explained it was actually pretty clear, more clear than the Lothwolves and how they interact with the Force, but it's essentially a place where you can go and access anything. Time is not a concrete thing. Time is flexible, you can go forward, backwards, any which way.
This idea was very driven by Filoni and thinking about how we'd utilized the temple before, what was actually happening there, and the way in which all of these things could be connected through the Force. And I think it is very much in some ways in the spirit of the cave on Dagobah.
Because we'd sort of got a glimpse of something very similar in earlier seasons, we were able to sort of build on that. We built a relatively small planetarium that has the main paths on it, and then the hope is that by using background paintings, you sell the audience on the idea that this thing just extends.
This was a really interesting thing to see come to life. The fact that there were these portals of different areas that you could go back to, and basically we were walking on paths, so like we added like little sort of ripples and things to Ezra's footsteps and stuff as he's going through here, and different times where there's voices going on that he's hearing.
Dave really wanted this to feel like this vast empty space, that it just felt like you were just walking almost like in a snow globe. Imagine if I had little tiny LED lights hanging from string all around this room, and I shut off the lights, and you're just walking along those stars, as opposed to space that feels like everything's plastered to the outside. And so that was very important for us to have that and these constellations that were always in frame.
I always have several small goals. One of the things I wanted to do was find a way to tie together all of the Star Wars films and animated series in one place, so that people get this idea that this is all a connected thing, that they're not desperate from each other, that they are inclusive of each other. And I believe that Star Wars has this grandeur to it. I believe the Force has this infinite space to it. So I started seeding in season 1 this idea of a place where there are stars. When Ezra's in the Jedi Temple and he gets his lightsaber crystal, he is in that world between worlds. He just doesn't know it yet because he's too naive and he's not fully unlocked. The next time he's there with Yoda, and Yoda obviously knows about it because Yoda's talking to him through this as some kind of conveyance where they can both exist in this place, but they probably aren't very far from where they are physically. But it doesn't have anything to do with the physical. It has to do with kind of where they believe they are and where they are mentally. So finally, when he unlocks all the secrets, he can go into this place and have more of an awareness of what's actually going on, and this is when the full world is revealed to him, and then he knows that evil also wants it, because things like that are too good to be true, evil always wants those things to destroy them and to use them for ill purposes.
We finally get the answer to what happened to Ahsoka in this episode. Was this the plan all along, or did this come along naturally after telling the story of Ahsoka and Vader's confrontation?
I believe that this was always Filoni's intention. So much time and thought had been put into not only the battle between Vader and Ahsoka, but what it would mean for the destiny of that character, that it was always in mind as we were moving forward with subsequent stories. I think also one of the significant things of Ahsoka coming back into the story at this moment is that she also helps teach Ezra this final lesson that Kanan was trying to portray to him. She is very much in that moment a conduit for his understanding, to understand what it means to let go, to understand what it means to live with loss. And if you think about it, losing Kanan is like losing his third parent, and how significant that moment is for him, and how devastating it is for him to know that he could have the power to be successful and bring him back, but it actually sacrifices everything that they've done before.
How did you learn about Ahsoka's fate?
Of course, in typical Dave Filoni fashion, he keeps you hanging until the very last minute. Prior to the episode, he came in and he broke down the entire episode. That's really when I found out what was happening. And we actually recorded this episode and these scenes several times. We did some rewrites, and then also even just to emotionally get to the right place.
I just really liked this idea of giving fans the completion of that battle and seeing that moment again from a different point of view. The fun thing for me was that I could tell this whole story about her and meeting Ezra and what's going on, and then end precisely where I ended before in season 2. So you're not really farther ahead than you were with her, but you learned a bit of the story that you didn't know existed. So now you know that she really is descending that staircase in the triangle doorway, because you see the triangle doorway behind her, and everything is set up for her to hook up with that moment. Whatever happens after, I mean, who knows at this point.
Has Dave given you any clues as to what Ahsoka will do now?
Dave has given me no clues. I truly do not know where Ahsoka is going or what's next for her. But to be able to continue Ahsoka's storyline was a dream come true. When she walked away in Clone Wars down those steps, I honestly didn't know if we'd ever see her again. Yeah. So with Rebels, that's just another chapter. There's still so much more to learn about her. So I hope this is not the last chapter. I hope we'll find out more about her.
Oh gosh, are you okay? I have searched high and low for Pablo Hidalgo to ask him your pressing Star Wars questions, but he's managed to stay hidden. However, I have one last place I haven't checked yet. Let's see if we can go find him.
Hey, Andy. Oh, hey, Andy. Hey, Andy. Hey, Andy. Oh, hey, Andy. Hola, Andy. Hey, Andy. Oh, hey, Andy. Hey, what's up, Andy?
Hey, Pablo. Where are we?
Hey, Andy. I was going to ask you the same thing.
I have no answers for you, but hopefully you have an answer for me, because I have a question.
Yeah, I'm not doing anything.
Okay, Stacey Paulson has a question about Rebel Assault. She asks, why does Mark call Hera General when in the episode before, Senator Organa called her Captain? Did she get promoted and we didn't see it?
That's exactly what happened. In fact, she probably got promoted in order to carry out the mission that we see her undertake in Rebel Assault. It's a lot like General Lando Calrissian and General Han Solo getting their commissions before the Battle of Endor.
Good to know. Congratulations, Hera.
How do we get out of here?
No idea. Have questions about Wolves in a Door or A World Between Worlds or any other Star Wars Rebels questions you want answered? Tweet them to @StarWars using the hashtag RebelsRecon and we'll answer what we can online. Or maybe, just maybe, Pablo will answer it here on the show one last time. But now, here's the moment you've all been waiting for, your exclusive first look at the series finale of Star Wars Rebels. Enjoy.
We were expecting you last rotation.
I had trouble escaping Lothal. The Empire's blockade is tougher than ever.
That would be no problem for me.
Hondo, I see you got my message.
At your service.
Thanks for watching Rebels Recon. We'll be back next week with our last episode ever. Which is pretty sad, right? But in the meantime, check out the episode guide for Wolves in a Door and A World Between Worlds on StarWars.com. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.